Hey folks, David Stewart here. It's time to talk a little bit about Dave Chappelle, specifically his new special, Sticks and Stones, and I'm going to show you a little bit of a shot here. This is from Rotten Tomatoes. This is a site I never look at on my own. Rather, it is shown to me, and yet it is another meme-worthy ratio with a 25% from critics and a 99% from audiences, thus showing the continuing disconnect between what people actually like and what the critics who work for major establishment media outlets think they ought to like. And I think the Sticks and Stones one is actually a really good example, but there's more to it than just this ridiculous ratio. If you go and you watch this Netflix special, everything about this Netflix special is designed to play against the general narrative. It's designed to be offensive and to be against the rules, so to speak, especially the rules of how you're allowed to do comedy on Twitter. So the first thing that he does is he comes out and he berates the audience for cancel culture, and it's actually quite a funny little interplay if you watch it with subtitles, because he does these really bad impressions that are, as a joke, kind of a meta level, intentionally bad. And he goes, "Who am I? You did something a million years ago and now you never get to work," something like that. And you can hear people say, "Trump, Trump, Trump." And he says, "No, it's all of you." So he calls out cancel culture, which of course the mainstream media is at the forefront of cancel culture. They're not going to like being called out for their behavior, and I think that's going to color the rest of what we're going to see here. Then he goes on to tell a bunch of pedophile jokes, and pedophile jokes are generally anathema on the right now. And then he tells a whole bunch of jokes about rape, which is also anathema on the left. He makes jokes about guns, anathema on the left. And I think the reason that the leftist media doesn't like it is that I think the left gets a little bit more of the offensive treatment than the right. But I wouldn't say that the right is left out here. I wouldn't say that Dave Chappelle is sticking it to the libs. Dave Chappelle is just being offensively funny in a way that is targeted to be so, and I think it enhances the quality of this presentation. And I think years from now, we're probably going to remember this particular special, Sticks and Stones, as being somewhat equivalent to like the 7 things you can't say on television. That is working against a particular narrative or a particular kind of cultural norm and challenging it, that makes it funny in a way that's in addition to the actual jokes. If I were to look at just the actual jokes of the special, they're funny. I don't think that they are the funniest jokes Dave Chappelle's ever told, but in terms of the relationship to the meta narrative, I think that they're really high quality, and they're definitely, to me, Dave showing that he really doesn't care what people think about him, and in fact, he's going to do the opposite of what is acceptable if he feels it'll be funny and if he feels it'll make the point that he wants it to make. Now I'm going to breeze past, I think there were some accusations of him stealing a joke from Owen Benjamin or something like that. I don't have enough to dig into that, so I'm going to skip that. But just in terms of the meta there, he makes fun of LGBT people. He makes fun of everything. And so as a result of that, he's drawn the ire of the left-wing media. Now let's look at a couple of the reviews in particular, because I think they shed a little bit of extra light onto why people are rating this rotten. Let's take a look. So Sticks and Stones exists as a defiant design to intentionally offend large swaths of the audience Chappelle deems too thin-skinned and easily outraged. Well, is that accurate? While serving up simple low-bar yucks to anyone yearning for validation of their anti-PC stance. So absolutely, this Salon.com one, she's just playing her hand, Melanie McFarland here. She's just saying, I don't like it because it makes fun of things that I think are important. He makes fun of people that he thinks are too easily outraged, and I am too easily outraged, and therefore I'm going to say it's bad humor. It's bad humor, and I'm going to thumb my nose at it. It's lowering the bar because you're making fun of me and what I think is important. Like dropping in on a rascally uncle who doesn't know or care how much he's disappointing you. So this is something that is a kind of an emotionally manipulative thing that you'll see some people do. Which is to say that something is disappointing. You're disappointing me, like you've somehow failed to reach some quality bar which has never been specified. I think this is a person really projecting. They wanted Dave Chappelle to be on their side, and he's on his own side. And so that's not very fun. Sticks and Stones leave the audience with the sense that there was more work to be done before the special was filmed. Is that true or is that not? That's not actually a criticism of what's there. It feels like stale work from a comedian who was once known for truly boundary-pushing comedy, the kind that actually understood nuance, particularly where famous and powerful men were concerned. So this person is, again, reacting to it as far as their own feelings to it. It actually was boundary pushing. You know it's boundary pushing because Laura Bradley is actually having this reaction to it. And you know it's nuanced where famous and powerful men are concerned because it's not taking the stance that she wants it to take. Lacking empathy can certainly be amusing, but Sticks and Stones is a tired routine by a man who forgot to layer jokes into his act, too often sounding like a pundit on Fox News. So again, Ian Thomas Malone, this person is just showing his or her hand in terms of this. I'm upset that it doesn't fit my political narrative. So people are often more honest than you give them credit for. This one just simply says it's terrible. It's designed to generate inflammatory coverage. It's a symbiotic circle with no end in sight. This is itself inflammatory coverage. You have to keep that in mind. And it's become the last thing a beloved provocateur should ever want to be, predictable. So this is another example of projection. This is exactly what this person does at The Ringer. They absolutely do inflammatory coverage. That's how they get their clicks. I've talked about this with the fake news formula and all that kind of stuff. So it's absolutely these people showing their hand in ways that they probably don't realize. The only one that is probably... this one's like a setback. It's a setback against what? Against the movement. These reviewers often show their hand in ways that you don't quite expect them to. But that's the meta that I see for Chappelle's Sticks and Stones. As far as its overall comedy goes, I think the jokes generally stick. They're generally pretty funny. I think part of their comedy is the outrage, but when you consider its relationship to the overall narrative of you're not allowed to tell certain jokes, and especially, say, rape or pedophile jokes, and he comes out and tells them you're not allowed to make fun of certain people, and so whoever he says he's not allowed to make fun of, that's who he's going to make fun of. When you consider those relationships, I actually think it's quite a good special, and I think it's quite worth watching. And in terms of this idea of generating outrage, this is absolutely true. This kind of taps into this idea of anti-fragility, which I talk about from time to time on Twitter and on the YouTube channel. That which is outrageous and upsets people has potentially at least an anti-fragile quality to it. The more outrageous it is, the more it gets shared. People denouncing Dave Chappelle in major media coverage are only bringing more attention to him and to the special and to Netflix. So are they going to be able to get Dave Chappelle canceled, get his horribly offensive special pulled off of Netflix? Well, if they did, it would only make it that much more famous because it would be the special that made Netflix money. People would renew their Netflix subscriptions in order to just watch this outrageous thing that everybody said was too hot for TV, which is a joke from the act. Everyone would be doing that. It would only make it more famous and more more legendary in terms of its relationship to this oppressive force that is seeming to always work against comedy. And that's something I've lamented in the past, is that you aren't really allowed to tell jokes anymore. And that's kind of the new rule of Twitter, at least, or of social media, that if you're funny and you are doing something that's offensively funny, then it's too bad. There is no such thing as humor. You could get kicked off of YouTube for making jokes about Nazi dogs, or you can go to jail for making jokes about Nazi dogs. That's the time that we live in. So it's unfortunate, but I appreciate this special in terms of that overall relationship to the narrative. So thanks so much for watching, and I hope I will see you guys next time.